Tamasha. After a hard day's play, they decide to retire to the pawn stall. There are quite a few men gathered around in small groups talking animatedly. The boys scoot up closer to one of the clusters, keen to know what the excitement is about. For me, I can't wait for that song, the one that always comes along. How does it go? That famous one, Apsara Ali? Oh yes, that one, yes. It's really got a beat that makes you get up and shake a leg. Every time it comes on, the cheers from the crowd are unimaginable. The rhythm is irresistible. Agreed. They usually play it last, so they can end with a bang. The conversation then takes a turn towards gossip about neighbors, but the boys get enough of that from their mothers, so they move away and head towards Salil. However, seeing that he has his own congregation going, they head homeward. On the way, discussion starts. So what do you say? I really wish we could make it, to the Tamasha. The way those people are talking about it makes me want to go. What do you all say? Well, why not? Let's sneak out in the night, run all the way up to Mahugiri and then come back when the Tamasha is over. Nobody will get to know. It's a perfect plan, Rehan says in jest. That's a great idea. Let's do that. Once everyone at home is asleep, come to the Gulmohar. We will go on from there, Raghu chimes in. Wait, Raghu, I wasn't serious at all. Plus, we have an exam tomorrow. Oh, come on. Don't be a chicken, Rehan. Are you afraid? No courage. Ansh taunts. I'm not sure if I want to. It's not a matter of whether you want to. You have to. I'll see, Rehan says, not wanting to sound like a spoil sport. But it depends on the situation at home. I mean, I can't help it if my sister decides to stay up late and study. Stop making excuses. You are just plain scared, Anshu smirks. I'm not. Okay. Come on, you two, don't start. I will see you there. Under the tree, bye for now. Raghu takes the turn that will lead him home. He is accompanied for an early dinner by his father. Shiva had been in a good mood when he came back home from work, but Raghu had known that it wouldn't last. Baba would go back to sulking once they would sit for dinner. It has become like a ritual in their house to sulk during meal times, Raghu thinks. He barely notices what he is eating. His mind is somewhere else altogether. Ma is attempting to make polite conversation, as usual, putting in a few good words for him, which he knows is more for her own peace of mind than anything else, to make herself believe that the bunch of people sitting together to eat is a family and not just strangers who have been forced to sit together and shove food down their throats. Excitement has made Raghu jittery. He can hardly contain himself. It seems impossible to sit without fidgeting, thanks to the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The plan that had been concocted earlier has to be kept hidden from his family. His mother's food is as delicious as always, but tonight he just can't bring himself to swallow it. This is just one of the many problems he faces whenever he feels like he has more energy in his bones than usual, which is already considered abnormal by most. More often than not, he manages to sit without moving too much while eating. But it seems like too much work when you can very well be jumping around and stay. Stop fiddling, you fool, and don't eat like an animal. God knows where you learn your manners from, rebukes Shiva. Although his expression isn't stern, in fact, it's softer than usual. Perhaps it is because he is actually considering the possibility of what Yashoda has been telling him. Perhaps it is the blossoming of hope in his heart that there might be better days to come. Raghu meets his gaze for a fraction of a second and then quickly lowers it, concentrating on his chapati, which is suddenly looking interesting. The lights go off. Hey Bhagwan, not again, Shiva whines. I will put the lamps on. Ma stands up. Raghu is thankful his father can't see him smile. This should make it easier. God is with me tonight. When dinner is all wrapped up, they disperse for bed. All the kerosene lamps in the house, except for the one in the kitchen, are doused. And within a few minutes, Shiva starts to snore like a bear. Yashoda washes the utensils and keeps them in a wire tub so they can dry off, and then goes to sleep as well. All this while, Raghu closes his eyes and tries to lie as still as he can manage. Stay calm, Raghu. You just have one goal ahead of you. Act dead. When the time comes, you will be a free bird. But till then, patience. It is a virtue. Shouldn't be too hard, right? But he doesn't know how wrong he is. It is now that the thrill of what he is about to do gets into his naughty head. He knows he is moving way too much in his sheets, but he can't seem to help it. Dead, Raghu, you are dead. About an hour and a half passes, and Raghu is 100% sure that there is now no risk involved. He surreptitiously gets up from his mattress in the middle of the night, picks up his slippers so they don't make any noise, tiptoes to the door, and like a professional burglar, soundlessly opens the latch. He closes the door behind him, puts on his slippers, and then sprints up to the gulmohar tree, its bare branches beckoning him to a night of sin. Raghu sees his friends waiting for him, leaning against the trunk. Their faces light up when they see him running towards them. Rehan has come too. Raghu sees that he is the last to arrive. All of them seem to have run out of the very last drop of self-restraint, and so, without any acknowledgement whatsoever and without wasting any more precious seconds of the night, they run on along the moonlit path, with the distant lights acting as their guide. They run with all their might to the adjoining village of Mahogiri, and, even without looking at each other, they know that each one of them is experiencing the same all too familiar, tingling feeling that comes before any act of mischief. Within the next 15 minutes, they find themselves at the border of Mahogiri and can see the excited commotion of the Tamasha in the distance. The catchy drum beats and the jingling of ghungroos reach their ears. A raised platform in front of a house is hosting the night's cherished guests. The music artists are important parts of the show, but the real crowd magnet, the very reason the Tamasha is such a big deal in the village, is the Nach, whose nimble feet, swaying waist, graceful hand motions, soft, swan-like neck, and riveting expressions engage everyone in the story she performs. Astounded by the grace with which she carries herself on the stage, all eyes, including the boys, follow her around, taking in her every movement with rapt attention. But perhaps astounded is a word far too mild for an audience that wild. The men who have swarmed to the Tamasha to watch the spectacle are acting like demented baboons, hyperactive, hyperventilating, hyper everything. The constant whistling, hooting, and jeering is expected to continue for the rest of the night. There is a short break when the Nach is permitted some rest. While she catches her breath, a burlesque interlude, put up by the lauded Dhamakya, is presented in the form of a monologue before the audience to keep it occupied. A part of the crowd seems interested and even refreshed with the change in the mood, but the rest couldn't care less for slapstick humor and noisily demand that the dancer return. Bored and waiting on edge for the minutes to pass, the group starts blabbering about the show. The boys listen in. You know what? I bet you don't. The Nach all of you have been oogling at, the man pauses for dramatic effect. It is only when the group starts getting restless does he continue. She is. Wait for it. Wait for it. She isn't a woman at all. He finishes with a flourish. All the people within hearing range look at the speaker with wide eyes, gasping. You ungrateful rascal, how dare you, says a drunken friend, much louder than necessary. It's true. Believe it if you want to, else get out of my face. She's a transgender, that's what she is. An insider told me. He fires back. You try to open people's eyes, do good for the world, and he mutters something unintelligible. The children, however, are not interested in his gibberish anymore. They turn to each other with wide smiles. Their faces are red, caused by a mixture of the heat emanating from the crowded gathering and, of course, unadulterated elation at being able to run away from home to watch the tamasha. Some spectators who had overheard the conversation have disheartened looks on their faces. The boys, however, aren't complaining. This has probably been the most extraordinary thing they have witnessed in the 15 years of their existence. They had already been straining in their places, craning their necks left and right to get a better view. But they agree unanimously to pay, if it is possible, even more attention to the show. An announcement is soon made by the main singer, the Shahir, that the audience patience has been worth its while. The real part of the show is yet to blow them all away. Hoots and whistles erupt from the crowd, rending the night. The boys join in, howling and shouting, having the time of their lives. The Shahir guides them through the story of the Nach romantic adventures, and the boys look on with spellbound concentration, afraid to even blink, seized by the fear of missing out something important. Apsara Ali, the Shahir echoes in a booming voice. Here comes the nymph, down from the heavens, bringing with her the colors of dawn. Her body is studded with jewels. Laughing and singing, she lights up to the stage. Here comes the nymph, drenched in the moonlight. The night seems to have turned colder as Raghu makes his way home. There is an uncomfortable nip in the air, and he finds himself dreading what awaits him. His eyes are overflowing with self-pity, and he feels exactly the opposite of how he had a little while ago. Now that the tamasha is over and morning is creeping up on the sky, Raghu doubts fate will be on his side like it was when he had left home the previous night. He somehow calms his heart, which is going crazy with worry, hoping his parents would not have noticed his absence during the night. Maybe he can slip inside as quietly as he had slipped out, without disturbing their slumber, and then go back to lying down on the mattress like nothing had happened. But he has a feeling that isn't going to be the case. Fear and guilt have him in a vice-like grip, refusing to let go. Of course, he pretends as if his father's scoldings don't hurt him, as if the beatings don't affect him beyond the physical ache, but they do, and they always would. Baba is his parent. After all, there is no escaping that. But even though it all does matter, Raghu shoves it aside as an act of defiance against his father for demeaning him, for letting him down countless times, for inflicting so much pain on his mother, for being such a killjoy in everybody's otherwise blithe lives. Raghu knows, though, that he cannot put all the blame on Baba. He himself has been a nuisance to a lot of people, particularly his parents. But after last night's outing, he plans to change things. Although he cannot disagree with the fact that what he and his friends had done was fun, he knows that he has been immeasurably out of the line this time. So, to set things straight, he resolves not to lie to his parents about it, his mother to begin with, and then, when he musters up enough courage, he would tell Baba as well. For now, how the next hour turns out to be depends entirely on Baba. Raghu feels uncertain. He knows too well that there is only so much Ma can do to rescue him. He has a lunch, and it's not a good one. Dry leaves crunch under his shuffling feet. Every little sound seems amplified. Every step he takes feels unnaturally heavy. He stares at the closed wooden door ahead of him. He looks at the cracks on the worn wooden door with extreme concentration for the very first time. The door stares back. There are no sounds coming from inside. He starts to think of excuses to save himself from the inevitable misery. No lies. Just then he hears the clicking of the latch and the door slowly opens. His mother is standing there with an expression Raghu doesn't quite understand. and ushers him in. Raghu complies as soundlessly as he can, but the creaky door has done the job. Baba is now wide awake. Raghu closes his eyes, ready for the flogging. The seconds drag on. "Where were you?" Shiva growls. A lump forms in Raghu's throat. He tries to speak, but words always seem to desert him when he needs them the most. "What have you been up to?" His father's fiery eyes drill into him. Nothing. We were just... I was... He fumbles for something acceptable to say. He looks at the floor as if that's where they will appear to help him out. "Don't mumble, boy. Look me in the eye and tell me." Raghu obeys. "Now speak." "We had gone to the Tamasha, Baba." The words stumble out. An ominous silence follows for what seems like an eternity. I had figured as much," says Shiva. "You do know you have an exam today?" Yes, Baba." Shiva clears his throat. "It amazes me sometimes, how small little things can bother people so much. A fly buzzing in your ear at night, a rainy day that makes you cancel your plans, things like that. I'm sure you get what I'm talking about. They make me really, really angry." Raghu isn't sure where his father is going with this, but he's sure about one thing. Whenever parents pretend to be calm about things that otherwise have the potential to get you kicked out of the house, know that you have landed yourself in a mess. And it's not just any common, everyday mess. It is the kind of trouble that sits prickling your conscience, tormenting you, so you never forget what you have done. But it's only when it comes to the big issues, Shiva continues as plainly as before, that you understand what anger really is. Blue bulls feasting on a crop for which you poured out your sweat and blood. Your father dying before your own eyes as you helplessly look on. Your son not abiding by anything he has ever told to do. Your wife, his voice falters. He glances at Yashoda for a moment, who is sitting in one corner and is pretending not to exist. And then looks at the ceiling, clearly pained. And when the big issues keep happening over and over again, day in and day out, that's when you lose control. Sadness washes over Raghu. The feeling is so strong that it wipes away all trace of fear from his heart. He doesn't believe it at first, but he feels like what he is channeling towards Shiva is pity. The person sitting in front of him doesn't look like the fuming image he has of his father. Instead, he sees a man who has lost a great deal. A man who has been pushed around too much. He sees a man who sometime in the future he could even befriend. Not for his own sake, but solely for the man's. So he can finally have someone he can rely on, someone he can share his smiles with, a shoulder he can cry on. I truly believe that there is a better world out there, on the other side of the village boundary. I wanted you to go and study there when you grew up. But I see that the chances of that happening are close to nil. Maybe you know it already. I think you do. But let me remind you anyway that you are by far the sole reason my temper ever flares. And since you happen to live under the same roof as I do, that happens every hour, every minute, every second of the day, every day. Raghu feels the pang of newfound shame hit him hard. He wants to fall on his father's feet and weep, telling him how very sorry he is. But he also wants to walk up to him and hug him like nobody's ever hugged him before. However, all he manages to do is mutter a subdued apology and say that he genuinely means it this time. Oh, please, you don't need to put on that "I'm from this instant a changed boy" act anymore. My worries end tonight. Baba beams, or rather tries to. It seems forced to Raghu. I have thought about it, and I have come up with the perfect solution. Raghu waits to hear about the genius plan, eager to know how he can help. Instead, Baba grabs him tightly by the arm and stands staring at Ma for a while. As for her, she looks like her worst fears have just come true. Raghu isn't feeling very good about this. Is Baba going to lock him up? Is he going to beat him so that Ma or anyone at all can't save him? Is he going to starve him? All of a sudden, Yashoda breaks down. Please, my poor child, don't do this to him. Please, I know he has committed mistakes, lots of them, but this isn't how to deal with it. Oh God, please listen to me. He's just a boy, she wails as she tries to get Baba's hands off him. I can't handle him anymore, Yashoda. He's a rotten little scoundrel, and it's all your fault. Who told you to treat him like a pet, huh? You can do that. It's okay, dear. It doesn't matter. He does a bad mimicry of her in falsetto. His iron grip on Raghu's arm doesn't loosen. His muscles tense and his fingernails turn white. The noise has awoken the neighborhood. And to make the already awful situation worse, Raghu now has an interested audience ready, as always, for a tamasha. Both Raghu and his mother know that this time Shiva will neither hear nor see reason. Raghu has given up, surrendering himself to the mercy of the man he calls Baba and letting go of the couple of strands of optimism that he had been holding on to all this time. His mother, however, keeps fighting gallantly, trying to hold her husband back, trying to break his unyielding grip on her son's arms, calling for help from the whispering onlookers, trying and trying. It's too late now. He has left me no other option. It will either be him or me in this house. Baba shoves him out of the door. Raghu trips and falls on all fours, scraping his hands and knees, bleeding from where the gravel has rubbed against his skin too hard. But it doesn't hurt there, not at all. Where it does hurt is in the core of the chest. It almost feels like somebody's spiteful fingers are wrapped around his throat, squeezing with all their might. Oxygen seems to have left his lungs. He can't seem to be able to breathe. That's when the realization of what's actually happening hits him. He can't even begin to imagine what his tomfoolery has cost him this time. What has he done? He starts to get up on his feet, crying. He looks at his father, his vision blurry, and sees a man so wounded that he has turned into a monster. There is nothing that can be done now. This time, Baba will not sway. Baba, please, just don't. He chokes through incessant sobs. I swear, I won't do a single thing to disappoint you ever again. Just let me stay. I will be good. I promise. I will use all of my energy the right way, your way. I will do anything you want me to. I will make you proud. Please, let me just stay. Please, I won't be able to live without you both, Baba. Where will I go? Look here, listen. Ma pleads with watery yet determined eyes. Your head is not in the right place. He is the sweetest, kindest boy your mother could ever want. All you need to do is give him another chance. Just one more chance to prove himself to you. The Lord Almighty is witness, and I know He won't let you down. Shiva does nothing. He just stands there, filling the doorway with his mighty frame and looking away and looking down at Raghu unblinkingly. Nobody has the courage to stand up to him. His eyes are red, brimming with anger and tears. Raghu knows what he is thinking. That ship's already sailed. He thinks back to the day he had put itching fronds on the teacher's chair. That day when he had received heaps of compliments from his friends about how genius his brainwave was. That day his parents had been called to school and told about the last warning he has been given before they would throw him out. He remembers all the days he had let his father down. His father's reaction had been a gradient from disappointed to angry to disappointed again. Through all these instances, his father had shown no signs of reconciliation, but Raghu hadn't tried either. Where did I lack? Shiva says softly, almost talking to himself. The silence stretches on. His eyes go from furious to sorrowful. He looks down at his feet deep in thought. Here you are, coming back home at dawn. Trust me, I have thought about it a lot. But I can't seem to understand. I'm not even close. He finally looks up at Raghu. I cannot comprehend what you want to achieve through your actions. Tell me, Raghu, he says, staring at him hard. What do you get from doing all this? Amusement? Thrill? Satisfaction? Oh, I'm sure that's it. You feed off the satisfaction of sucking the very life out of me, you little demon. I gave you everything you needed that was within my power and means, didn't I? I think I deserve to know why you turned out to be so crude. Look at you. You are such a deplorable, useless creature. I had so many hopes, so many dreams from you. But you? He heaves. You squashed them all. You are at fault for what's happening right now. Raghu, not me. If people didn't know otherwise, nobody would believe that it's my blood that courses through your veins. Shiva takes deep breaths to calm himself. He steps forward. Every child is precious, Raghu. Every child is a gem. But you are no commonplace boy. You are a curse. You are a disaster waiting to happen. Tell me, Raghu, where did I lack? Shiva spits out all the poison that has built up in him over the years. His eyes pool over. Yashoda's tears silently run down her cheeks as she stands beside her towering husband. Her current situation can be perfectly condensed into one word: devastation. Shiva never had much love for Yashoda, as she knows that. But she had her children. Once Kavita had left, Raghu had been the force that drove her through the day, every day. But now that he is being made to leave too, Yashoda's life seems to have lost all meaning and purpose. When Raghu doesn't speak, Shiva heads back into the house. He emerges a few moments later with all of Raghu's belongings that he can collect in one handful and throws them on the ground. Well, there you have it. You have caused enough damage there. Now you can't do anything more. You don't know how good it feels to see you so powerless. Don't dare to step inside my house before you make something of yourself. If you do, that is good luck and goodbye. The door bangs shut on his face. Raghu can hear this mother's muffled cries and pleas still coming from inside. The spectators murmur among themselves for a while, but soon even they start to go back to their homes to get a few more hours of sleep before they start their day. It hurts Raghu to see how the world is already moving on without him. Like his absence doesn't even matter to anybody. He has been feeling that way a lot lately. He feels numb all over. What you lacked was love, Baba, he whispers. Raghu doesn't sound anything remotely like his usual rampageous self. You lacked love, he sobs. Raghu sits by the front steps of the house in a daze. For how long, he doesn't know. Dadi, who is still deep in sleep, has not a hint of an idea that she probably won't see her grandson in this life again. Once the situation starts to sink in, Raghu picks up his only belongings in the world and sits underneath a street lamp, thinking what next to do, thinking about what to do next. He considers knocking on his friends' doors, but then thinks the better of it. That way he will have to encounter his parents, especially Baba, pretty often, and that doesn't seem like a very good idea. Now what? His head is a mixture of emotions: sorrow, panic, exhaustion, regret, guilt. Every bad memory of his life comes rushing into his mind. Raghu realizes with a start that all of them involve Baba in one way or another. Just then he feels a tingling at the back of his mind. What had Baba said? There is a better world out there, on the other side of the village boundary. That's it. That's what he will do. He will take a bus to Bhimpur and start from scratch. He will go to Haridas Dhaba. He will find work there, he will beg if all else fails, but he will survive. Raghu sits on top of the haystack, legs folded, staring wide-eyed at the ground. His belongings lie in his lap. The refreshing morning breeze blowing from near the gulmohar tree gently nudges him out of the daze. Gently nudges him out of his daze. He cracks his knuckles and rolls his shoulders. He has a mission to pull off. The dusty bus screeches to a stop, its exhaust pipe sending a blast of gas and smoke right in Raghu's face. He chokes, but stays put. He is in the perfect position to execute his plan. The ladder attached to the back of the bus is just half a foot away from him. He waits till the engine roars back to life, and then some more. Of course, if he had the money, he would have bought a ticket. But since he doesn't, Raghu is more than happy to add another accomplishment to his resume. Okay, it starts in 3, 2. Raghu lunges for one of the rungs with one hand, holding his possessions in the other. It's a close call, but he manages to get a grip tight enough to keep him dangling above the ground. With a final effort, he manages to latch on firmly, all 4 limbs secure on the metal ladder, and starts climbing. Once he gets to the top of the bus, he squeezes in between the metal bars, running across the length of the roof, and holds on for dear life as the bus speeds away to what is to be his new home.